Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cisco Unplugged. I'm your host, Dan Klamert, and I am super excited here for episode 38 this week. We are going to be talking about how we connect the unconnected, or the unplugged, if you will, with workgroup bridges. And I would like to take a moment here to welcome back to the show Ian Procyk and Francis Girard. Hey, Ian. Hey, Francis. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing really well, Dan. Coming to you here via satellite today from our command post trailer. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on.
Hi, Dan. And I'm coming from beautiful sunny day in Saint Fabien. That's near Rimouski. That's St. Lawrence River that maybe you'll see at one point uh, behind me. Yeah, just beautiful day just before we get the tail end of Debbie, I believe.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I'm super jealous. Here I am in my home office here, and Francis is in beautiful Quebec there on the St. Lawrence, and Ian, you're going to see here, he's in beautiful British Columbia. So yeah, don't focus on my background here today. Nothing exciting here going on, but super jealous about that. But thank you guys for taking the time here to join. Before we do get started, I do want to take a couple minutes here, or a minute, I should say, just quick to remind everyone that we do use Slido. I don't know if I see that link out there in the on the YouTube. I'm going to add it to the chat if we don't have it. Well, I in a minute here, but so if you do have any questions, like normal, we do take those via Slido. You can submit those questions, and we have people answering them. Also, I may interject some of those live if we have some time here, which we should. So, as usual, also we record this, so it is going to be posted on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@getunplugged. And you can also register for upcoming episodes. If you want to see those, that list at cs.co/getunplugged. But also a reminder just to please, when you are out to the YouTube channel, to subscribe so you are notified when we do go live with episodes like this, and we post other great content that we've been posting lately as well. So, and now I guess we'll get unplugged here, and I'll turn it over to you, Ian and Francis.
Sure, I'll just start here first and just kind of explain where I'm at a little bit more in detail. And both Francis and I, like we mentioned, are both doing all of this over wireless and or work group bridges. In
Sure.
my case here, in my spare time outside of my day job at Cisco, I spend a lot of time volunteering, dealing with disaster communications, amateur radio. The local club that I'm a member of has been working for many years to build up a communications trailer, which is where I'm sitting right now. If I'm out of the sun a little bit here, the exposure might pick up some of the things that are around me. But this trailer basically has satellite uplink. It has the ability to have a connection back to the main building where it's docked via Workgroup Bridge, and that's actually what I'm on right now. I'm using that Workgroup Bridge connection as well. And you'll see in a demo here in a few minutes, we actually built this trailer to be parked next to a building, have a mast that can go up and extend Wi-Fi coverage out. And we'll give you a bit of a demo about some of that. But to Francis, perhaps you can explain kind of your layout and what's going on your end.
Right. So, well, Workgroup Bridge has many use cases, right? We could certainly use this as for situations like Ian just described, but also connecting equipment that stacks up, PLCs and whatnot on, say, large cranes moving various components across a large smeltering plant, for example, right? Lots of use cases. And one of these use cases could be as simple as simply connecting a single wired device onto a wireless network. And right now, myself, I'm actually talking to you using my MacBook Pro. But where I'm a little bit far from my cottage, so signal is a bit weak, around like minus 80 dBms, and I'd be having some real issues getting audio and video through. So I'm actually connected using my Ethernet cable on my MacBook Pro to a worker bridge, acting as a universal worker bridge and getting me a decent around 60 dBm signal back to my home network and talking to you live. So we'll be talking a bit later the differences between universal worker bridge and worker bridge. We're going to start with worker bridge with Ian.
Yeah, for sure. So, like the main purpose of a workgroup bridge is to provide that wireless to wired handoff, right? So when you're trying to connect assets that are without a Wi-Fi interface, or if you want to improve those devices that are maybe poor wireless performers from a roaming perspective with a known client, right? So you've got perhaps Cisco infrastructure, you got a Cisco device that you can control the roaming behaviors, the triggers for roaming. All of those things are very important when it comes to optimizing the connectivity, especially for things that are on the move. And Workgroup Bridge has been around for a very, very long time. This is a technology that's been there since the beginning of autonomous iOS, 20 plus years now at this point, and pretty well proven. I would suggest that a lot of our customers and a lot of folks probably listening have workgroup bridges running in some corner of the network somewhere. There's a lot of folks that maybe haven't looked at it as well and haven't necessarily seen the latest and greatest. So we're going to walk through some of that as well. I don't know, Francis, if you want to go into a demo right away, or we want to do a little bit more back and forth. What's your take?
Let's describe maybe how do we want to go? Let's describe. Let's Tom, if you could share my screen, and I'll I have a diagram, I guess, of the setup of where Ian is. Ian, it's that first diagram. Do you want to
Yeah,
describe
absolutely.
folks in the
Yeah, I'm looking
map?
at that right now. And so basically, you can see the command post on the far left-hand side. And that command post is where I'm stationed inside of right now. We're calling that the trailer or command post. There's a root access point that is on a mast outside of this trailer, which you'll see a picture of in a moment. And I'm going to get in my vehicle and I'm going to actually go mobile here and drive away from this command post. But I'm going to go about 1,000 to 2,000 feet away. And there are a bunch of trees, as you can see, in the way here. So I've actually installed a map access point, so a mesh AP, roughly the halfway point. And that mesh AP is actually running off of a little Honda 1 kilowatt generator. So as I drive out and past that, my session will roam over to that map. And then I'm going to go, a fair distance. I'm going to go kind of halfway into that drawing like you see there, about 2,000 feet down the road. And that'll be the conclusion of this demo. Let's just show you some basic roaming. We'll show you what the screenshots look like on the console, or sorry, on the WLC, so you can understand what that roaming behavior looks like as well. So with that, I think I'm going to, so by the way, here's what I'm looking at inside the trailer right now. This is the network inside the trailer. You can see an IE switch that's mounted up there on some DIN rail. The bottom photo is showing the Workgroup Bridge uplink to the building when it's parked here natively. And you can see the VSAT antenna there that is nested in this particular photo. On the right-hand side, you can see the 9124 route access point that's up on the mast. And so again, the intention of this is to provide not only a wireless coverage around the trailer, but be able to extend the range of this. Let's say, for example, we have to respond to as was a couple years ago, there was a request to provide connectivity for a evacuation camp. And so you could roll the trailer into a scenario like that, put the mast up, provide not only Wi-Fi coverage around that route access point directly, but you could take a Pelican case, for example, into a facility that has a workgroup bridge in it and basically provide that distant bridging and provide VoIP phones, provide things like that inside the building, and perhaps another access point as well, if need be. So these are the options, and this is kind of how we've got things set up. I'm going to do this roaming demo or driving demo so you can kind of see this in real life here. This is the generator trailer or the generator map that you see here right now that's running at the halfway point. It's just running a 5114 for the backhaul antenna, and Omni's on 2.4. I've got this set up in a 2 spatial stream configuration right now. So there's two SS on the backhaul and 2 spatial streams on the Omni and the downlink. And then this is the Workgroup Bridge on the top of the truck. So the Workgroup Bridge is a 9124 AXE. I'm actually using some N to RPT and C adapters to go to the good old dual bands just for this particular demo. I've got a few other things I've made over the years, but this works well enough. And you can see I've got the console on there as well, so I can kind of keep an eye on the roaming the poor man's way. So there we are. And you know what? Because I could, I brought a payphone with me for VoIP. So I have an old 20-year-old OB100. Some of you may remember those, ATA. And so, yeah, if I need to take a call while in the vehicle with my Workgroup Bridge, I've also got a fitting technology. So, all right.
Hey,
Ready
Ian.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Before we get going here, I just wanted to ask a question here. I know Workgroup Bridge is a topic that's near and dear to your heart, and So I know we've been also talking about an episode like this for some time now, but true or false question here. You invented the Workgroup Bridge. True or
Uh,
false?
that would be false.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Just
I
giving
think
you a
this
hard
goes
time.
back to Stewart OS days in the very beginnings on VxWorks. So, the way back. But yeah, great technology, and we've been working on it. Right, it's not stagnant. It's been improved and whatnot, and especially as we got things like ultra reliable wireless backhaul and C. Now, there's lots of questions about what should I use and when should I use it. So we'll cover that in a bit.
I'm glad to see you have your phone belted in too. For safety
Yes,
first. That's good.
safety first. Absolutely.
That's worth a lot of money. You would need to, take
It is an
good care
antique.
of it, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
so you're gonna hop in your car now?
Yeah, let's go do that. I'll put the mic down here. We're gonna go into the vehicle and cross your fingers. A live demo. Never know the gremlins, but let's try it.
Yes.
All right, cool. And so as Ian's going to his truck and he's gonna actually demo this, he's changing, and he'll be using one of his laptops in the vehicle that's connected to a switch to the work bridge, right? So we've got a live network in his vehicle. And that network is basically a couple of devices on the switch attached to the work bridge on the top of his car that we just saw in the previous picture, and providing backhaul to the infrastructure. There's Ian.
All right. Can you hear me? All right in the vehicle.
Oh yeah, totally.
Awesome. Okay, let's get rolling here and see how this plays. So, I am gonna take you by let me put the camera in the forward-facing direction here. By the way, this is a private closed course, so legal disclaimer.
Kids, don't try this at home.
So here's the
Drive
mesh
safe.
access point. You can see that. And now we're gonna go down the road here. And this is about where I hand off, and because I've gone non-line of sight to the access point that was on the communications trailer, the command post. And I'm going to ascend this hill here. Hopefully things are still coming through loud and clear.
Oh yeah.
Very good. And what I'll do is I'm just going to get to a nice flat spot up here where I can stop.
Video's coming really clear.
Very
Yeah,
good.
looks great.
Awesome. Okay, so that's about 2,000 feet or so away, maybe a little bit less than that. I haven't exactly measured, but that's kind of where we're at. Let me turn the camera back around to me here in the driver position. So there you go. Hopefully that quick demo shows you the initial roam. I think, Francis, you've got some slides to show what that looks like when we were doing the testing on this last night. If
Yes.
you want to pull those up.
Yeah, Tom, if you could share my screen there. There we go.
Yeah, for example, so this is maybe go back one slide, Francis, so that we show the initial connect. Whoops, okay, so here we are. This is the mesh access point, right? Yeah. I'm just playing catch up with you here. Okay.
Oh,
All right. So this is the vehicle Workgroup Bridge connected to the fuel trailer, or the generator that's powered by, we call it fuel map. That's it's actually by an old fuel tank, hence the name. And so you can see that highlighted in the middle, and you can see on the column couple over, there's a Workgroup Bridge identified there. I'm using 2.4 for my Workgroup Bridge demo here today. And I think on the next slide, you'll actually see the mesh backhaul, if I recall correctly, Francis. Yeah, so there's the one hop mesh. So you can see 30 dB SNR. I'm on channel 149 in this example. This was a screenshot I took just as this was forming, and it was actually showing on channel 1, which is incorrect. But it was on channel 149 is the actual ending channel, so on 5 gigs. But that second number there, you see comma 30, that is 30 dB SNR and 1 hop away. So as you'd expect, pretty rocking signal, even though I had some trees in the way. And I think the last picture there is just to showing you when I was originally at the command post. So this is when I started on that trailer route access point. And again, the same device, 2.114. That's the machine I'm on right now, the MacBook that is on the wired network, hooked into the trailer. So, all right, so there we are. That's kind of the demo here of a single hop roam on Workgroup Bridge. You might have had a little glitch there as I roam. Maybe you lose one ping, but that's pretty typical. So anything else you wanted to add to that, Francis?
No, I think yeah, we got a little bit confused there with the slide order, but we got the gist of it, right? And what we see on, I'm not showing that slide anymore, but what we were seeing on the things was how on the Catalyst 9800 we actually see wired device show up as clients within the GUI, and they are identified as wired clients behind Workgroup Bridge, right? And this is because we have inter access point protocol running between the Workgroup Bridge and the access points, right? And we have a bit of a diagram here showing how this is set up. So the Workgroup Bridge joins the SSID using whatever authentication mechanism you want, pre-shared key in the case we're in our demo, because we wanted to keep it simple. And then all the wired devices in the back actually have extended connectivity through the Workgroup Bridge. You get the IP address. So you could have VLANs on the switch, and VLANs would be propagated through the link and so forth. And that's all thanks to the Cisco IAP protocol. And it's important to understand this because typically when you have a client connecting to Wi-Fi as per the standard, and when a client transmits, he's using a source MAC address, which is the same as his transmitter MAC address. But when you get into Workgroup Bridge situations, you actually have multiple source MAC address of all these wired devices that are using the same transmitter MAC address. So kind of a important differentiator here. And of course, roaming, Ian did a pretty good job at showing this. I didn't notice any a glitch in the video.
I didn't either, or
yeah.
audio.
Right.
Yeah, it sounded great.
Bit of a different example there. We've more recently introduced the IW 9165E, which can now act as an access point or ultra reliable wireless backhaul, or as a Workgroup Bridge. And we're showing a bit of a indoor manufacturing vehicle that's carrying stuff around. And sure enough, you have multiple devices that require IP connectivity on these AGVs, and the Workgroup Bridge is a super solution to connect this and reliably over the wireless infrastructure. And just before we go to the second phase of the demo, let's talk a little bit about universal Workgroup Bridge here. So I got a screenshot of a capture. Let me zoom in on that screenshot. What I wanted to identify here. So in this screenshot, the Workgroup Bridge is configured in universal Workgroup Bridge. And what ends up happening is that it is using it is actually replacing my MAC address of my workstation that's behind the Workgroup Bridge with the same MAC address as the transmitter. So I'm showing here in the red box the 4 addresses. We don't necessarily realize this, but there's actually 4 MAC addresses. The typical destination and source MAC addresses. So in my case, the source would be normally would be the source address of my Ethernet port, and the destination address would normally be my default gateway, right? But then you also have the receiver and transmitter MAC addresses, and in this case, if you look closely, the transmitter MAC address, which is a Cisco, is the same as the source MAC address, and I actually appear on the wireless LAN simply as a Cisco device. Anyway, then this enables you to use Workgroup Bridge on a non-Cisco infrastructure, non-Cisco, I should say, non-Cisco on-prem 9800 or previously AirOS controllers, 5520, 8540s, for example. So actually here, I'm connecting to a Meraki AP, and the Meraki APs, as of today anyway, do not support that protocol I referred to in the previous slide, the IAP protocol. Anyway, moving along here. Yeah, oops, I didn't want to show this slide yet. So we want to go back to Ian. And the second second phase of the demo, right? So Ian moved around his vehicle. His vehicle actually has a number of devices connected to a switch, being hauled back through the Workgroup Bridge. But Ian's needs to, actually take one specific device, and he can't keep on going using his vehicle. He needs to walk to the where he needs to be with his device. Now, how does he get connectivity? Ian, explain to us what's happening here.
Okay, I'm just going to do an audio check with Tom, make sure that
Okay.
you've got you're good? All right, perfect.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm outside of the vehicle now, and this is talking about a feature that we have on the Workgroup Bridge called concurrent radio support. And so the idea here is that obviously the radio 0 in my case, the first slot is 2.4. That's my backhaul connection. I have the second slot, the radio 1, set up as a access point. And so it's basically acting like a little repeater again, right? And the idea here is, let's say I'm a utility technician and I've got a utility truck, right? A power line truck. I would need to leave my vehicle with a piece of equipment, maybe a tough book like I'm using here, and walk to do an inspection or take a look at something or go away, a distance away. You're not going to be going thousands of feet away, but 300-400 feet away is not unreasonable, especially if you have antennas on the roof. So let's do that. I'm going to take my laptop here, and I don't know if, you can see it there in the background in that shot. And we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to walk, and hopefully this is coming through good. I didn't do much rehearsal on this, and this is an old Logitech C920 webcam, so you have no idea how good this thing is.
With the sun in the back there, you got.
Yeah,
but the transition was perfect. We got your live video from the Tough Book working perfectly.
Perfect. Cool. So let's say I'm going to just set down here. I'm a good 150, 200 feet away from the vehicle, and I could come in here, do my job, do whatever I need to do. And, this is exactly the kind of thing that goes on every day with this type of application when you're dealing with Workgroup Bridge and the concurrent radio support. So I thought I'd show that. It was kind of cool. I've actually done a test with this in the past with this particular kind of laptop, and I've gone over 800 feet from a 9124 as a Workgroup Bridge because the 9124 is a high-powered transmitter. It's got excellent range. And this particular series of laptop, these Toughbooks have external antennas that are, let me just show you, that are right on the top. Those little black bars are the antennas. So they're up high and prominent on the machine. And so wireless works well on this platform. So with that, Francis, back to you.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about configuration before moving into different use cases. Tom, if you could share my screen. So it's fairly simple to actually configure a Workgroup Bridge, at least just to get it up and running. What I'm showing here on the screen is if you configure an access point, a cost, the more recent access point since we've got the Wave 2 access points, they're running the cost operating system. And we're setting it up as a standard Workgroup Bridge. The first thing here, I'm actually downloading an image from my local TFTP. So I just thought I'd mention this at this point. You need to be running a more recent software release that supports Workgroup Bridge functionality on various platforms, right? We've introduced this functionality on different platforms at different software release. But keep in mind that the software release that you're actually installing that matches a release on the 9800, which would be 17, let's say, .12 or 17, even 13 or 14, that version is specific to the Workgroup Bridge. Doesn't need to match the version running on your controller. It can actually, the Workgroup Bridge running iOS XE 17.12, for example, will work and join on a Air OS controller running 8.5, for example. Just wanted to make sure that hey, don't worry, you don't need to upgrade your infrastructure just because you want to do a Workgroup Bridge. Anyway, so I upgrade the software on it and then reboots and then give it a name and actually configure a SSID profile in italic, the variables I'm putting in there. You see my PSK key. Now you could actually come to my place and connect easily. And then I configure the mode into Workgroup Bridge and specifying which profile is the SID profile. And I'm enabling this on the 5 gigahertz band. That's the setup I have at home, where I am. I've been doing both Workgroup Bridge and Universal Workgroup Bridge. Keep in mind, we are using, in this case, in the Workgroup Bridge, IAP protocol, and that means we need to have the SSID with the ARNet IE turned on. Okay, so this is the screen capture right there. Then the next thing is configuring a universal Workgroup Bridge, and if you look at the commands, they're basically the same. The only difference there is the before last line, the mode is UWGB. And then I actually have the MAC address of my device. So it knows this is the MAC address that's going to be used to forward back and forth as a single, normal wireless client onto the wireless network. So that gives you a quick overview of those commands. Of course, this is just basic connectivity. If you want to use, stronger authentication mechanism, for sure, please do. These are documented. If you want to improve roaming efficiency, these Workgroup Bridge supports 802.11r and other various advanced functionality. This is documented. Right now, I'm showing a diagram of the second phase of the demo. This should have been a little bit earlier, and with that tough book that Ian was actually showing. So we got a little our slides out of order. Sorry about that. Okay, we've been talking a lot about the Workgroup Bridge. Ian, why are we using Workgroup Bridge here and maybe not just do more mesh or the ultra reliable Workgroup? What am I saying? Ultra reliable wireless backhaul.
Fair enough. Yeah, the way I look at it, I think of Workgroup Bridge as a fantastic solution where you've already got a 802.11 wireless network up and running. If it's a Cisco network, you can obviously take advantage of the IAPP connectivity, as Francis has been talking about, where you can have multiple VLANs trunked across at layer 2, or universal Workgroup Bridge if you're just using a more standard approach. The whole thing about mesh is great at extending range in fixed locations. Mesh is not, you can't move a mesh access point at any speed. Like I couldn't put a mesh access point on my truck here and do the same test and hit multiple maps in the middle. The roaming is not set up that way. It's nomadic. In other words, I can move a mesh AP. That's very common in the mining industry. We'll put a map on a trailer and move it around. But once it's up and running, it stays put, right? So Workgroup Bridge is highly mobile. Ultra reliable wireless backhaul, in the name, a backhaul technology, right? So when we start talking about trying to drive lots of throughput over great distances, that's where we should be going by default. If we need to be doing high speed mobility, in other words, I'm just driving here at 30, 40 kilometers an hour. I'm using Wi-Fi, I'm using Workgroup Bridge. This is not that much of a stretch for Wi-Fi. But if I'm going to be putting something on a train, doing, trackside connectivity, if I'm going to be doing something on a boat, something that's moving at speed, vehicles like in a racetrack kind of situation, or telemetry, that's a curb application for sure. And so I think that's the crossover point is obviously ultra reliable wireless backhaul is not, is not a technology that can interoperate with 802.11. It's standalone by itself. And therefore it needs to be, an engineered solution on its own, right? And that might be for haul trucks, et cetera, and mining, whatever it might be.
So we have some examples with pictures that you've taken over the years. Tom, if you could switch over to my screen. And we're if we do give Ian, if you could describe some of these.
Yeah, for sure.
After that, we'll talk about software release and close it there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so basically what you're seeing here is an example from one of the local universities here. They have a fountain. It's called the Martha Piper Fountain. It's a feature in the middle of campus, one of the previous presidents. And they had a requirement for getting communications to the PLCs that are on the pumps and whatnot of this whole thing. And of course, that's underground under a manhole. So here you go, an IW3702 under the manhole. And you can see on the bottom left photo, there's actually some really purpose-built antennas for this application that you can drive over. These are manhole cover antennas, low profile, and the connectivity for this is provided by one of a number of buildings around that water feature that actually has rooftop access points. So in the particular picture you see on the left there, I know for a fact on the top of that building there was APs installed that provide coverage for that entire kind of walkway for pedestrians and students. And the same thing goes for the other buildings that are on the four corners of this intersection. The next example, same campus, is a situation where you're trying to improve mobility for AV carts. So in this particular scenario, the carts that they had were having a little bit of problems as they were moving between rooms with the Wi-Fi being a sticky client. So, hey, 3702s were coming out of service, surplus to the needs as an access point, but hey, we can repurpose this as a Workgroup Bridge. It's a great radio, great range, and you can tweak and configure the roaming parameters and make this just sing. So that's what was done here. You can see some examples of that sitting there on the carts.
And this was using actually a good example of an application of universal Workgroup Bridge in this case.
Yeah,
I believe.
absolutely. Single MAC address. And then in the mining industry, you see a lot of this. This is all arguably going towards ultra reliable wireless backhaul, or maybe even cellular in some cases. But this is where things came from, and where a lot of our customers, early adopters of Workgroup Bridge, lived. And some of these vehicles are being driven robotically under central control using Workgroup Bridges. And you can see a picture here behind the driver's cab. When I say driver, there's typically not a driver in a lot of these vehicles these days. There's a Workgroup Bridge in there that is connected to a hardened IP67 Ethernet switch that is providing connectivity on multiple VLANs to the systems on board for tire pressure monitoring, for axle weight monitoring, for engine control monitoring, all the attendant systems that are often have to be in their own broadcast domains.
All right. Yeah.
Francis, do you want to lead us off? I think we can maybe skip this one in the interest of time. I'll just sum it up to say that you want to keep your Workgroup Bridges links, typically under a kilometer or two. Believe me, I tried. There's lots of slides to back that up, but anything over that, you're going to start running into ACK timing problems. So go ahead.
Yeah, the protocol is not made necessary for that. Going back to the slides there, just a couple of words on software. We have, historically we've been using iOS, like Ian was showing with the 3700 APs or the IW 3700 APs, but more recently we reintroduced Workgroup Bridge functionality on our more recent access points. Here we're seeing some of these APs that do support Workgroup Bridge functionality, and all these industrial wireless, that's the IW series, that do support Workgroup Bridge functionality, as well as in some cases other modes of operation, such as ultra reliable wireless backhaul. For reference, but we've been improving the software and adding functionality within with the Workgroup Bridge feature. And at the end of this presentation, I'm not going to show it here. We do have a couple of references showing pages where you can grab additional information how to configure these. One of this is actually a guide specific to the 9165, which is kind of a purpose-built Workgroup Bridge for these types of applications. All right. Any questions, Dan?
Not right now, no, but this has been a great episode here. I've learned a lot. I think it's one of those things that you don't a lot of times think about the connectivity behind the scenes and the use cases for these. It's impressive. And thank you for going through this. Did you have other stuff? I didn't mean to wrap it up or anything.
No. I mean, as I mentioned, some of the stuff is we'll put the presentation online, and you've got actually more pictures that are provided by Ian. More information about that long link and various statistics around signal strength and so forth to reach out there. But that's just of it, I believe. Ian, any last words?
No, I think we're good. I got to get back to where I left. I'm a single one-man band here, and everything else is unlocked and running. So I'm going to drive back to where I started before somebody steals all my equipment. So,
All right. That sounds good. Yeah, don't let that happen. All right, this has been great. This is a great episode. Thank you for joining us from the field here live. Ian, Francis, always great to have you on the show. Always great information. And, among learning everything here that we've learned already, just the scenery in the background has been cool as well. So thank you
We had
everyone for
fun.
tuning in. Sorry, Francis, go ahead.
No, I was just saying we had fun kind of doing this a
Yeah,
little bit. We
it
try to
was
make it a little bit funnier for us anyway.
it was fun. I agree. So thank you. As we close out here real quick, just a reminder, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@getunplugged. You can always reach out to us if you have questions after the fact. You want to give us feedback, got any ideas for the show, anything along those lines, you can email us at getunplugged@cisco.com. You can find us on Twitter at unplugged80211 or Threads Unplugged Connectivity. Thank you again for tuning in. Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Ian. Until next time, stay connected and unplugged.